Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy, beautiful Sunday day, is it not? Oh my goodness. I love it. I just absolutely love it. So I am so glad to be back this week, and thank you, John Knowles, for filling in. There you are. Where did you go? There you are. Thank you for filling in for me. I have heard good things, so we might consider having you back again. I'm thinking about fifth Sundays, and I could go visit other Unity churches, so that might be a real good idea of things to do. So much to say before we even get started, but of course we all are in sadness and loss for Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and to remember the incredible woman and the woman that forged such a path for women of the upcoming generations. And for those of you that have those younger people in your lives, again, to have conversations about what is possible in your lives, because I look at her and, and I think of my own path, and I didn't have a voice as a young person. It took until this New Thought teaching for me to have a voice, and I'm sure some of you are wishing that sometimes I didn't. But at any rate, finding your voice is definitely a good thing. So I just wanted to say that. And I'll talk a little bit later about my New York trip, but it was really great. And and Wendy, welcome. And what was I going to say? Oh, would you please turn off your cell phones and no texting during service, because I take it personally, even though you're not supposed to. So that was a joke, and you're supposed to laugh. I count on you for this. Now, are you listening? Okay. So we have a beautiful opening song today that was recommended from Unity, along with Welcome with Unity, along with our Keepers, Breakers, and Menders path of where we're going very shortly. So if we could start, please, with our opening song, Our World.
When I dip my toes in the waves of the ocean, something in me knows I am part of that ocean, and I can't deny I am one with all mine, 'cause this is my world, and this is your world, and together we will choose a way. When I stand in the forest that's been here for 1,000 years, something in me is silent, and I open beyond my fear, and a voice from inside tells me not to deny that this is my world, and this is your world, and together we will choose a way. We all come from one source, we'll return to one source. So let us sing with one voice, let us sing your heart choice. Sing with me. I choose life, I choose life, I choose life, I choose to love. This is my world, and this is your world, and together we will choose a way. This is my world, and this is your world, and together we will choose a way. my toes. In the waves of the ocean, I know I'm alive.
This will be our opening song for the next 5 weeks as we move through our journey on finding a world that works for all. This will be our opening song, and I'm sure that some of you will start doing a little bit of words behind those masks, but you're not allowed to. I just thought I'd let you know anyhow. So we have a vision and we have a mission here, and it's really important because everything that we do comes back to, does it support our vision? Does it support our mission? Sometimes you have really great ideas, but you have to go back to the purpose of why we're here. So our vision is a spiritual community of love, peace, and acceptance. And our mission, creating an inclusive spiritual community through fellowship, service, and community outreach. And because it is almost the end, as we were told before we started today, that this is our last summer talk, I've asked Diane Holly if she would read a beautiful fall poem for us. Diane, would you please do that? You do. Who's technical, Tom? Guys, is that my phone?
Hello? No? I don't know how you turn this on. I've never had to do it.
Light out.
Hello? Oh,
Yeah, there you go.
I performed my magic. Okay. A little something here. Autumn by Alice Carey. Shorter and shorter now the twilight clips. The days as though the sunset gates they crowd. And summer from her golden collar slips and strays through stubble fields and moans aloud. Save when by fits the warmer air deceives, and stealing hopeful to some sheltered bower, she lies in pillows of the yellow leaves and tries the old tunes over for an hour. The wind, whose tender whisper in the May set all the young blooms listening through the grove, sits rustling in the faded boughs today and makes his cold and unsuccessful love. The rose has taken off her tire of red. The mullein stalk its yellow stars have lost, and the proud meadow pink hangs down her head against earth's chilly bosom, witched with frost. The robin that was busy all the June, before the sun had kissed the topmost bough, catching our hearts up in his golden tune, has given place to the brown cricket now. The very cock crows lonesomely at morn, each flagon fern the shrinking stream divides. Uneasy cattle low and lambs forlorn creep to their strawy sheds with nettle sides. Shut up the door. Who loves me must not look upon the withered world, but haste to bring his lighted candle and his story book. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you very much. Yeah. Normally I would be talking, I like to talk about the seasons and things, but I'm really excited to move forward with our talk. So right now I would like to ask Tom Flair if he will come, and he's our platform person today, and he will read the daily word, light the Christ candle, and do the flames of faith with me. Tom.
Thank you, Arlene. The daily word for Sunday, September 20th, 2020 is balance. As I center myself, I create a balanced life. Living a balanced life doesn't have to mean that every day I spend the same amount of time on specific tasks, or that I always give equal attention to every area. Instead, Balance means taking time daily for practices that help keep me centered. My inner environment creates my outer world, and I can't expect harmony on the outside when there is discord within. The amount of energy I have directly correlates to the quality of my rest. And to keep giving, I must be willing to allow myself to receive. Before I move into the activity of the day, I spend time in stillness. When I make time for others, I take time for myself. I listen as well as speak and allow for play even as I work. Both divine and human, I find my harmony in the balance between. And from Proverbs 11:25, a generous person will be enriched, and one who gives water will get water. I like the Christ candle today as a reminder to all of us that Christ light is always shining within us, and it's our opportunity to express it into our world.
And to begin our flames of faith, we perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples, all faiths, and all sentient beings come from the one great universal principle, which we call spirit. Fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here today. So as Tom lights the first candle, we light the candle for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. We light a candle for the shamanic tradition, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous people, the way of primal spirituality. We light a candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light a candle and celebrate for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light a candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light a candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness and the path to love. We light a candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God and the highest calling. We light a candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. And we light a candle for all forms of new thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. And finally, we light a candle for all those who are yet unaware of the power and the presence of spirit in their lives, and for the space that we are holding for them in this center, and for all religions unnamed in this ceremony. So, keepers and breakers and menders, oh my. Now those of you who know me know that my favorite movie is The Wizard of Oz, so we're gonna go down that road today. So this is the age of reforms. Never before have such widespread persistent efforts, both by men and women, to right the wrongs of religion, society, and politics. So writes Charles Fillmore, one of the founders of the Unity New Thought movement. But interesting enough, he wrote this in 1926. Does it apply today? Yes, it does. Okay, this is interactive. Okay, so then I have three questions then. So my question one is, has nothing changed? Question two, do we live in a continuum, a circle of rest and unrest? Or question three, have we learned nothing from history? I think those are all valid questions. But I also believe that all three reflect our current state of affairs. Some call it insanity, when we keep wanting change, but we continually do the same things. Is that not the definition of insanity?
Yep.
Thank you. We're in deep trouble. We live in a world that works for only a few. If we really think about that, when you really think of the haves all up here and then all of this, the have-nots, we're living in a world that only works for a few. However, in the midst of unprecedented disharmony, we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity that may never come again for a millennium. We can craft a society that actually reflects our deepest values. And I remember in the beginning of COVID being on conference calls with the GLRC, that's our regional, Great Lakes regional group that we are a part of. And I was so optimistic about all of the opportunities opening. And I'm looking at these faces of 12 people all looking like I was some crazy person. There's a little truth here. But it is an opportunity because the universe is saying, wake up. Wake up and live right, do right, make a change, make a difference. You know, in the song that we sing about If We Only Had Love, and it says, create a new world. We'll give a new world to our daughters and sons. It may not be our daughters and sons, but it's your granddaughters and your nieces and your nephews and all of the great-greats. Are we making a world for our daughters and sons? At no time has it been so clear our future is our choice, says Sharif Abdullah, who is the author of the book that we're working with in our book club and going through the next 6 weeks with talks. So the question of the day would be, why? Why do we resist creating a better world? And who are the players? So Joseph Campbell best describes it. He says we resist because, and I have said this to you before a couple of weeks ago, the wasteland is that territory of wounded people. So what's going on right now is we have a bunch of wounded people and they're just there. That is a people in inauthentic lives. And I believe that John spoke last week about authentic lives. So the people living in inauthentic lives, broken lives, who've never found the basic energy for living, and they live therefore in this blighted landscape. So we resist because we gave up. We gave up. And the players then are the keepers, the breakers, and the menders. And if you remember a while back, maybe 6 or 7 weeks ago, I don't know, I spoke about this, and I spoke about reading this book and how it just brought a whole new perspective to me. So the primary groups of consciousness then are the keepers, the breakers, and the menders. It's a consciousness. So let me refresh your memory about who and what they are. The keepers is the original story. In the beginning, the indigenous people who lived their lives in connection with all of nature. They ascribe to the theory that we're all one and that they're connected to Earth. And how many indigenous people have we dismissed, killed, disintegrated? The breakers, that's the dominant story. The breakers is what's happening right now in our world. People who, in our way of speaking, have not healed the separation. People that are striving for everything and don't know is heal the separation, healing the light. A major teaching of New Thought heal the separation, heal your life. They've not healed their life, so they're living in a world that is not enough. Breakers create the world that works for self, for I, for me. Breakers treat the world as their property, exempt from the laws of nature. The breaker's thought creates the mess. And the mess is what we'll talk about next week. So then we go to the Menders. And I think I'm looking at a lot of Menders in here. The Menders are the emerging story, and that's what we are in here. We are emerging into new paths and new ideas and new ways to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. The Menders' fundamental belief is we are one and there's enough for all. Members seek to bring balance to Mother Earth and know that we're living on sacred ground. How many of you think about it during your day that planet Earth is actually sacred ground? Menders bring healing to themselves and people around them. So this book and the material in it is so rich that I'm forced to pick and choose. And I was telling David and Tom, this took 5 hours to write because there was so much material and I couldn't put it all in here when I wanted to. So I had to pick and choose, and I had to keep taking that whole paragraph out and that paragraph out because it was too many paragraphs. But we'll get to a lot that I can't do here in our workshop that we're doing this week. So for those of you joining our book club then, you're going to experience a raw and compelling cases for change and transformation with a keen new insight. And if you can't tell, I'm really excited about that. So I feel then that we must look deep within ourselves and our society to discover why humankind does so little to address the concerns of the world. And as we move through the concerns, the author will focus on spiritual starvation. And I think that's where a lot of the breakers are. They're in spiritual starvation. They don't even know yet that there is a path. See, everyone in here is on the path, and we're all in different places of the path. But at least we've made that first step. We're on the path. And there's so many people in the world that do not know that there's a path. They don't even know. And if we could get that message out, we would be building a huge, bigger place somewhere else on a big piece of property. And we can do that, by the way. So my intention then for the next 6 weeks is to develop a new understanding of our purpose and responsibility here on planet Earth and how we move from complacency to action. Now, we have a lot of conversations about millenniums, and I had the honor of spending 5 days with my great niece, Jessica, and she is 23, and she's a millennium. And we had conversations about the world and life, and she was so clear in her understanding. She said, Aunt Aubrey, it's so simple. It's really simple. Instead of all of what's going on and all of this fighting, it is, okay, so Marianne, what is the problem? What do you see as the problem? How can I help you? Do you want my help? How can I help you with that problem? And let's look for a solution. We don't have to argue. Here is something that's happening. What do we do about it? Let's sit down and talk about it. It's clear. What's the solution? What's the first step? Let's just do it. Let's just do it. And I said, and I look at this young brain with awe. And I look about how every time we leave the room, she's turning out every single light. And I was getting rid of a pair of sandals because they're old and they don't have any arch support anymore. When you're old, you need arch support. And she said, give them to me because I can take them to H&M and they take old fabric and old things and they make it into new things. Give it to me and I'll take them home and I'll do that. And I'm freaking out because there's a spider in my room and I'm saying, kill it, kill it, kill it. And she's saying, no. And she takes a cup at 6:30 in the morning. Who takes a cup at 6:30 in the morning and puts a spider in it and goes outside and gets rid of it. There was so much to learn from her. And it made me more intense in how do we reach these people? How do we open our doors? And I don't mean for a Sunday service, but what? Because she said, Aunt Aubrey, there are so many people that would talk with you, who would love you. Everything I learned from you. And I went, oh my God. But the thing is, the young people have a simpler, easy approach to things. And I think that's why they're so disgusted. And then that's a whole, not in my talk, but I had to say all that anyhow. So thank you. Jessica's listening this morning for the first time. Hi, Jessie, we love you. And she was sorry that she couldn't be here with us, but next year, she said. So for many of us, we touch on the responsibilities. Everyone in here does. I know that. I do too. But the question is, how high is that priority? How high is our priority to do something bigger and better than we are? We have it on our fingertips the ability to craft a new society. Jessica says if we don't, in 2050, we're going to blow up this whole world. We're not going to do that, right? No, that's not happening in our world. So when we craft this new society, it has to reflect our deepest values. So I, with you, must create a consciousness that makes this possible. See, all of the praying, and believe me, I pray every day. I have an ongoing conversation with God every day. I pray, but the consciousness behind the prayer, the embodiment, the understanding, the belief system has to be there. You say, I pray, and nothing happens. Have you checked your consciousness? What are your beliefs? What's behind it? So we all know the story of the coal miners taking canaries down into the depths of the mine. Do we know that? Yeah, we all know that. The canaries were the warning system. So if a canary died, then the miners immediately dropped their tools and got in the cages of those things that they do and get the heck out of there quick. Otherwise, they're going to die. The warning system. How many dead canaries are there right now in our society today? How many have we killed? Thousands. Many, absolutely. Do we not heed the warning signs? We have climate change, we have COVID, we have crazy upside down things happening in our government, we have fires and we have earthquakes and we have floods. How many warning signs do we need? How many canaries are we killing? Our social, ecological, and spiritual lives are out of balance. We're not even seeing the canaries. We're not even seeing them. What our world is telling us is that we have created a world that works for only a few. This is the central theme of Abdullah's writings. However, he says, by shifting consciousness, we can change. He says, but it's urgent and we have to do it now. Can we envision an inclusive world? The concept of inclusivity brings forth the premise that we are inextricably linked to each other. We're linked. And when we get this, we can make a world that works for all. There is a need to change our stories, though. Because if we keep doing the same stories, and you've heard me say this before, how many of you have heard the same story from a friend or relative that goes on and on and on, and you wish they would change the story? We have to change our story about our world. And we have to be willing to hear the other side of the story. So I said, Mary Ellen, what's wrong? What can I do? How can I help? But then I have to say, well, what's Tom's side of the story? And then I can say, how can I help? And then here's this story, and if we really look at them, they're the same story, but the flip side of the coin. We're not listening to each other. We don't listen to each other. We don't. To change our story, we have to understand the story. Mary Ellen has to understand Tom's story. Tom has to understand Mary Ellen's story. They don't have to argue. You don't have to fight. It's that simple. So let's take a closer look at the breakers, because the breaker consciousness is what kills the canaries. Breakers are the me society. Their consciousness is destroying our world. It is the separation. I'm my own, I'm out here on my own, and I'm going to do what's best for me, period. Breakers create a world that works for me. They exploit for everything for their own gain. They exploit women, minorities, and immigrants for their own pleasures and service. They exploit the world. And they gain at the expense of others and don't care. God forgive them, for they know not what they do. The breakers kill canaries. So is this mess a call for a wake-up call? What do you think? Is it time for a wake-up call? Yeah, you're shaking your heads. Yeah, most certainly it is. We can be instrumental to change. We have to wake up and save those poor canaries. The problem with breaker is they don't know that fear is what's driving them. Fear of not being enough, of not having enough. Because when people have confidence in themselves and believe in themselves, they don't have to worry. They don't have to hold on to. They don't have to grab everything. They don't have to keep it tight within. Fear drives them to act in a way that creates more fear. The fear is not enough, so they stockpile. They're not generous with time, talent, treasure. They're blind to the consequences. Breakers are victim of their own fear. So going back to changing the stories, then we have to change our stories. So what's blocking us? Is there any fear in there? When I thought I had no fear, and I told this to you before, when I thought I had no fear, but then COVID gave me time to think, and I found out that my fear was anger, and the more I feared my anger, the angrier I got. When I realized that that was my fear, then I just said, okay, I'm going to let go of this anger. When I let go of this anger, then the fear is gone. Can it happen that quick? Yes, it can. Does it take time for more people? Yes, it does. I've been practicing this for 19 years. Okay. Practicing. Hear the word? Practicing. Practicing. It still is a work in progress. I'm a work in progress. You're all a work in progress. We in this room are mostly menders. So why am I sharing all this breaker stuff with you then? Because it's part of any solution. We have to understand where the mess came from. The mess came because Mary Ellen was so tired of all the vegetables when Tom wasn't looking, she threw them in the garbage. That's where the mess came from. But in fairness to her, Tom wasn't helping picking them. So then what's his side of the story? I'm too busy, I work too, I've taken care of you all these years of our life. We have to understand what created the mess. What created the mess? And we menders, we're doing our best. We are aware of the problem. And that's the first step. You have to acknowledge the problem. Plant less next year. But sometimes I think we get so tired that we just turn away and we become complacent. We cannot do that. The world needs us. We have to care for all of humanity and planet Earth and do our part. So how can I help? People need food and shelter all over the U.S. right now. How can I help? Our children need protection in their schools. How can I help? Drug and suicides are on the rise. How can I help? Abundant chemicals in our food. How can I help? Climate change, fires, floods, and the list goes on. How can I help? You can help by shifting consciousness, then shifting cultural consciousness and the culture of our institution. And that doesn't mean going out and being arrogant, and that doesn't mean going out and arguing. It means going out and listening to stories. This is where the faith and the trust and belief of all-encompassing intelligence comes in. See, unity teaches that the world is an outpicturing of our thoughts and beliefs. What we think is what we create. So at some level, where do you take responsibility for our world right now? Last September, when Jessica was home, she was just aggravated to no end with her family not recycling. And she finally insisted that they recycle. And she went home this year and they were still doing it. So as little as that, how can I help? What can I do? So if we do not like what we're creating, then we have to create something new, a world that works for all. We have to break through. We need to break down the old paradigms and the systems, breaking down paradigms. I'm working on this and I'm saying, but there's not enough God in here. There's not enough God in there. There's not enough God in there. And all of a sudden I said, wait a minute, God in me, as me, is me. I'm doing this. I'm saying this. There's enough God in here. Breaking down old paradigms of what church is supposed to be, what a minister's supposed to say. God's in here. We cannot attack the breakers. They're spiritually starved. But we have to have compassion and empathy and spiritual maturity. The keepers, third consciousness, can lead us back to love and land and nature. The people who instinctively knew that their lives were interconnected to all life source, God. This relationship is one of mutual respect and understanding. Edgar Cayce studied the keeper consciousness among the Native Americans, and he wrote, by awakening the Native American teachings, you can come to the realization that the earth is not something simply to be built upon, to be walked upon and driven upon and taken for granted. It is a living entity. Earth is a living entity. It has life. The keepers are in touch with the consciousness of oneness with Earth, all beings, all time. And this is our challenge. This is our challenge, to be keepers and to teach our young to be keepers. In words from a song from the Time Traveler, we are here to give all love to the ones unborn, to create a life for our children. To create a life for our children. Live selfishly and the structure will fall. But if we live for those unborn, then this song is going to go on. I look up and I see the message across the sky. Message is telling me it's time to evolve or die. It's time to live this life right so that when our children look back, they look back with pride. I think all of us can look up from our little world and see the message across the sky. For each of us have a part to play in this world we're creating. Keepers, breakers, menders. Oh my, I'm a part of all three of these. I cannot deny. So go with me in a silent place right now. And think of just your daily life. And to bring it to a place of higher consciousness and sacredness. And to know with me that within we have the ability, the energy, the commitment, and the love to ourselves and to each other, to our country and our world. to look around and say, how can I help? It's as simple as guarding the temple gates. It's as simple as not letting in that which is not for your highest good. It's as simple as kindness, fulfilling a need. Ask yourself in the silence right now, how can I help? What would be the first step that I could take to go out into my community, this community, and say, I'm here. How can I help? How do I create a new world for the daughters and the sons? And I challenge myself, and I challenge each one that is hearing my voice to know that they're not too tired, too old, too encumbered to make a difference. And as you take this challenge and vision with you today, I ask you to journal about it, meditate about it, pray about it, and to say today, I stand tall. I am a mender. I am part of something so much bigger than I am, and I am committed. So we release this prayer, we release these visions, we release the commitments, we release a new understanding, a new perception, and we release it out into the universe. And we say, yes, yes, God, here I am. And for this, and for so much more, we're ever grateful. And together we say, and so it is. Amen. It is done. Thank you. Wow. So, we do our offertory prayer each week, but let's say it today with such gratitude for all that we have and all that we're about to give, both in time and talent and tithe. So if you will say it with me, please. The love of God inspires me to give in a spirit of generosity. I give with love and joy to ensure the growth of this ministry and this unity center. And it is so. Thank you, God. Okay, so Jules tells us today we have big news, announcements. Okay, there it is. I never know what's going to be up there on Sunday. Thank you for your creativity. We love it. And a big thank you today to all of our volunteers, Tom Clover, Dave Pauley, Diane Pauley, Carey Smith, and Rod and Edney for doing all of the work to bring up the rest of the silent auction items. There are 2 weeks to bid on this. This is the final from what I understand. Is that true? Yes. And Jules is going, yes. A little bit too much for her filling all of these roles, but she's doing an excellent job. So thank you to all of our volunteers. And speaking of volunteers, I need 2 things today, if anyone is willing. We have a memorial service at 2 today for Louise Boulabosh, and her family is just going to have some cookies and coffee downstairs. And I was wondering if someone might want to go down and make a couple of pots of coffee for me. And then because we're having company, we always clean the house. If anyone would like to grab a broom and just sweep off all the cobwebs outside, that would be wonderful. So thank you. So those are our announcements for today. So this is the part where we are going to close our live stream, talk a little bit, and then sing. For those of you that have been with us this morning, thank you so much. Oh, I didn't do all the announcements. I'm sorry. I'll just go, okay. Oh, long sleeve t-shirts. So these are our white t-shirts. I'm sorry, I'm ending. Stick with us, we're staying. So these are our t-shirts, but a couple people have asked for long sleeve ones, so we're going to be ordering long sleeve ones this week. Yes, Jessica, I'm ordering one for you. She wants to wear one in Israel when she goes back to Tel Aviv. And so anyhow, see Jules, and we will get them ordered this week. And they are great shirts to sleep in for those of you who don't sleep in jammies. So just wanted to let you know. And so we are ordering them. Don't forget, this is so important. How can I help? How can I help? By showing up for our marketing meeting that will be held October 4th. We bought a big dry erase board so that we can write. And no, David, I'm sorry, you can't write. We can't read your writing, but we will find somebody that does. And we're going to just put across the top, and they're going to say, what do we need? We'll fill in this, and look, and we're going to create something great, because if we create that, then we can get out to the community and create more and more. So we're going to do that. Fall Book Club starts on Wednesday at noon and 6 p.m. There are books in the back. If you haven't bought your books, get them. If we run out, let us know and we'll order more. Board of Trustees meets Tuesday. Anybody who is considering or has already said yes that they will be on the board next year, if at all possible, needs to go to that meeting. So Board of Trustees meeting Tuesday at 6 p.m. and we are inviting all people that have said yes or are considering being on the board to show up for that. And so now this time, really, to our live stream viewers, have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next Sunday for another, it says awesome service, but that would be conceded, another great service. Bye all.